Hello, everyone. You are watching Sundays on Mondays, where it's all good, all God, all the time, from where we are to wherever you are. And so excited to be with you today and glad to be bringing to you some good news, and always like to get a chance to talk to some of our friends from around the world that are doing great things in the world, let you hear a little bit about what's going on in their life. And, you know, today we have one of the greatest guys you're ever going to meet, Dr. Samuel Chang. He's not a stranger, I'm sure, to numbers of you. He's authored over 11 books, and I'll tell you all about how you can get those and download those and find out all of his information. But he's listed as one of the top 30 leadership gurus in the world, and he does consulting with major churches. He does consulting for businesses, profit and nonprofit. Sometimes they're not in a profit. He's trying to help them make a profit. I don't know. But he is just an awesome person. But I'm glad to have him as a real dear friend to me and Kathy and our church and our family. And Dr. Chang, it is good to see you today on Sundays on Mondays.
It is an honor and delight to be with you, my friend and my brother. Thank you for this honor.
Yeah, man, I tell you. I mean, now what do Mondays look like for Doc Chang? Because, well, you're not a local pastor, so I mean, you're in a church or dealing with a business nearly every day, consulting, fixing people's problems, and all those things. So maybe your Mondays might look a little different than somebody else's. So what's a Monday for Doc Chang look like?
Monday for me usually looks like either travel or hosting a number of calls, emails from pastor friends or from all over the globe. Because, Sunday, while there's a day for the platform, behind the platform, in the vestibule, in the lobby, in the office, there's a lot of stuff going on.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I like to ask people who are good at what they do, because what other people don't see, like when it goes wrong. In other words, like, sometimes I think we have people that get caught up in the highlight films, and they watch these guys come down the court and they show about 4 different slam dunks in a row, 3 touchdowns in a row, but they take a lot out in between those highlight reels. And I had some worship leaders on here the other week and asked them what happens, when you rehearse a song and you practice it and then you get up in the service and it just falls apart, So what do you do when you feel like, man, I just didn't quite connect?
Yeah, and that is what Mondays are about. I just call Mondays cleanup days. And so much can go wrong on a Sunday, and it just takes somebody to squeal about it and can throw off a great service. Everyone, every leader, every pastor, every preacher listening to me knows that you can have 100 people tell you what a great message that was, change their life, and all you need is something on Facebook saying, can they have any toilet tissue?
Right.
Yeah, or why do people in the parking lot ministry have to be so mean? Or why can't I sit where I want to sit? And why is the music so loud, or can't hear nothing in that church?
Yeah.
Why do they bring the lights down? And what's all the smoke all about? Do I have to listen to her sing again? And just on and on it goes.
Yeah.
And so Sundays are just primed for great blessings as well as non-blessings.
Yeah. Sure.
And it just trickles up to the pastor. And so Mondays become that day in which you are really seeing, is this something I want to chase after, or just let it die out?
Yeah.
And most of the time, just let it die out.
Well, people can see that just behind you on the wall are all these degrees and things like that. But what people may not know, because that you're always out there and forward, that your wife, Brenda, is just received her doctorate degree not long ago, eh?
Yeah, she is the brilliant one in my family. The degrees behind me, I just printed them off my own laser printer. I got jealous of Brenda's degree, so I just said, I'm going to go get me some.
Yeah, I'm just going to make some up.
Absolutely. I mean, Brenda is amazing. We've been married for 35 years. She is the scholar in the family. So she got her Doctor of Ministry from Oral Roberts University. And then she is a perpetual student. So right now she is in a chaplaincy program.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, she wrote our coaching program. Now she is in a chaplaincy program. I don't know what she's going to do with all of that, but that's what she's doing.
I saw a guy on television the other day. I told my wife, this is the most awesome thing, because we were watching the horse races, so they had the Triple Crown and the last one there. And they did a story on a guy who's the chaplain for the racetrack, because he said most of the time the jockeys and the trainers, they're racing all on the weekend. He said, so I come and and they showed a picture of him with them in a circle praying. And then he just walks around and talks to all the horse trainers. I thought, like, what a life.
I mean, what do you say to the jockey, and does Jesus really help in the race?
You tell him, don't fall. And if you fall, get up.
Yeah,
Hey, by the way, you have two beautiful daughters as well. And we may have
Rachel and Debbie.
Rachel and Debbie. And of course, I've got a chance to meet both of them, and they're really something, But what I wanted to ask you about was, because everybody keeps telling me that whenever I become a grandfather, that's life there.
Totally. I have two grandbabies. One is 14 years old and one is 15 months old.
Wow.
So even every day I get to see both of them and play with them, that I'm in the city, and your life is going to change. And now both of your kids are married.
Yeah.
So they know what to do.
Well, I try to stay out of that. Kathy is not so easy. Kathy's like telling Phil and Meredith, she'll say, other people have grandkids. Other people have grandkids.
Absolutely.
And I don't know if she doesn't say that so much to Stephen, Michael, and Rosie. I think maybe because she thinks they're broke. I don't know. But anyway, we'll just keep moving on that one. Hey, let's talk about downtime. Because we have people watching us. We have pastors and leaders, but we just have people from everywhere. And you don't have to be in a leadership position necessarily to need downtime, So what does downtime look like for Sam Chan?
Lord has really blessed me that I can decompress faster than most people. Mm-hmm. Most pastors I know, the first 2-3 days of being away is just decompressing.
Yeah.
So I can decompress overnight.
Yeah.
So for me, it is very, very good. So for me, decompressing means being with family, just being away, catching up on my reading. It's easy to get behind on my reading and writing. Yeah. And then also decompressing simply means just doing some fun stuff, just hanging out, doing nothing, which is just flipping through the channels, because, got 300 channels, but there's nothing on it.
Right.
So for me, it comes real easy. And then my life is pretty uncomplicated as well, in the sense of, unlike you're a bishop, so you've got other churches that you're responsible for in United States, across the world, in Mexico, South Africa, and different parts of the world. And then you have a church, and you have a staff. In my case, it's just me, just two men in a truck.
Right.
So it's easier.
When you were talking about your reading, so obviously you have to keep yourself, as I know that you do, very up on what all pertains to the world of leadership and business and churches. I mean, you have to stay up on all of that. So do you have reading that you just read for your own enjoyment? What do you like to read for yourself?
I like to read the newspaper. Yeah. I'm a newspaper junkie. I really am. I've been known to read 4 or 5 different newspapers on the same day. Yeah. It just giving me worldview. I also like to just go through all the stuff that now you can get on the internet and get different people's perspectives on what might be going on.
I would like to suggest to you this book called Power Shifters.
I think the best book I ever read. In fact, that book sits right next to my Bible, so I refer to Power Shifters all the time. And you can get that book.
You can download it. It's an ebook. Yeah, just michaelpitts.us. Listen, I want to tell a little bit of you to tell a little bit of your story, because what's amazing here is that and I'll go to maybe the middle of the story before we start the beginning of it, because you were at one time the janitor of Beulah Heights Bible School University. Did I say that correctly?
Yeah, it used to be Bible College, now it's university.
Okay, university. You were the janitor there, and then eventually came back as the president of the school, the university now, that you were the janitor of. And so that's going to be kind of the middle, because people don't always know that. You know, they see you where you are now, but almost anybody that's doing anything has a story. And so you were born in India, and I know that your dad had an unusual conversion based on just some people being obedient to God.
Yeah, yeah. My father was a third generation, what we call nominal Christian. That means I'm a Christian in name, but I don't go to church, don't read the Bible, have no relationship with Jesus. And so at the age of 32, single, unsaved, coming home from work, on the street corner were the two ladies with tambourines. I mean, that was the only instruments they had, sing the old anthem of the church. There's power, power, wonder-working power in the blood of the Lamb. And so, my dad just stood there in the street corner taking the show. And you've been to India, so you know it doesn't take much to get a crowd. And so, because there are people everywhere. And so he just stood there, just taking the show. He listened to what these ladies had to say. And these ladies testified, preached, prayed, gave an altar call on the street corner. And the street corner, my father got saved. And so after that whatever street service was over, they invited him to their home the next day for a prayer meeting. So my father went there. Now there were three of them, the two ladies and my dad. And when they're sitting in the house, the lady said to my dad, "You, Brother Chang, you are now our pastor." And he says to them, "You don't understand, never been to church. I don't own a Bible."
I like it because they didn't ask him. They just informed him, "You are now our pastor."
Because you see, they had a word from the Lord.
Yeah, sure.
And they said that the Lord sent us to the city, and we told the Lord that the first man who gets saved in our ministry is going to be our pastor.
I love it.
So that's what happened. My dad died on January the 1st, 1991, after pastoring that same church for 49 years.
Is that something?
Starting dozens of churches all over North India. So, you just think about how God does things.
Yeah.
So you and I are having this conversation right now, but God had a plan on the street corner for us to have this conversation.
Yeah, isn't that amazing?
He's always connecting the dots.
How does your dad's story tie into your story?
So I grew up in a pastor's home. My ambition in life was to be a pastor. And that was my plan, but that wasn't God's plan. So I pastored for about 9 years in Michigan from 1980 to 1989 before the Lord delivered me from that and set me free.
Wait a second, though. But as you're moving there, one time we had a conversation that might be really interesting to you guys to hear this. Because, sometimes on Mondays, we'll sit around and we tell stories about funny things that happen, just like people do, things that happen in church or things that happen in life. And somewhere we were chatting one time about an excommunication service.
Yes.
That your dad had.
Oh man.
You got to tell because I don't think I've ever actually been in an official excommunication service. And what in the world was that like?
That is horrendous. First of all, imagine at that time, I'm probably 16, 17, so my head is like an adolescent teenager. Yeah. Nothing connects, everything has its own world, own sphere. Yeah. So there were these people in our church who were out of sync with my dad's vision for that church. And I don't remember what all happened behind the scenes as to what he did as a pastor. As a teenager, I'm not involved. I'm not even thinking about that. Sure. And he's not telling me anything, and I'm not asking questions. But I do remember that Sunday very, very vividly. So my dad gets up there that morning, and he says his name was B.M. Chang. and he gets up there and preaches about something about put them out from among you, and uh, and then he works towards that, and then he starts naming people and says, stand up, stand up, stand up, stand up, you stand up, you stand up, you stand up, you stand up, and say, you're out of this church, never come back here again, you're excommunicated. And then he went further than that, and then he told everybody else who was still seated, look at these people, if you ever talk to them, you are out as well. So then at that time, a fight broke out in the church. I'm talking about a fight broke out. And so all these people who were supposed to be excommunicated rushed the pulpit where my father was. Some of them had chairs in their hands as weapons. Police had to be called, and it was really, really bad. And my sisters, they remember this. My older sister Esther, my younger sister Elizabeth, had to be safeguarded because some rumors out there were that they would get kidnapped in this whole thing. It just got just out of hand, just crazy. But all started with the excommunication service. So yeah, I got stories.
That would have been something to be. That would have been a great Sunday on Monday to interview your dad on that next Monday. That would have been something.
I think you would have wanted to wait till about Friday to interview.
Well, listen, when you came to America, and you were pastoring there in Michigan, and you had some tough times, huh?
Yeah, America was I came here in 1973, but 1974, as some of your older viewers might remember, was a bad year. That's when, recession was just high and unemployment was high. I mean, in those days, if you got an 18-20% mortgage, you had a testimony. Yeah. Things were just really, you couldn't get gas. Remember, you had to stand in line for gas odd and even and stuff like that. Yeah. Well, my sponsors lost their job in Pasadena, California, Bob and Vivian Steinbau, who were my American sponsors. And because they lost their job, they were not able to support me anymore. And those were the days that, I had to get my food out of dumpsters and just scrounge, literally.
But see, this is what is so amazing to me, because sometimes we move past those things quickly in conversation. I just wanted to drive home to someone, because someone is watching us maybe just on their computer, and you're just sitting there and you're feeling like life is being really tough on you, and maybe it very well is, and things are, this man that is known all over the world became the president of the Beulah Heights University and is now a leadership guru and an author, just very quickly said, those were the days when I was getting food out of a dumpster. There's something, I think, demoralizing, when you feel as if you have no means, no ability to help yourself, especially to men. Don't you think? And it does something to them psychologically.
I tell you, so if we can hold on to the dumpster story for a minute, as I'm talking to you, I'm thinking about the time when I was pastoring, full-time pastoring in Michigan. And Brenda and I had our first baby, Rachel. This is 1980, 81, somewhere in there. And the church wasn't paying me enough. I mean, they were doing their best, but they were not paying me enough. And so we didn't have money to eat. And Rachel was allergic to Brenda's milk. So we had to get, the expensive stuff in a can. And so we didn't have any money. And I remember Brenda and I going and applying for food stamps. Yeah. Now remember, I'm a full-time pastor, full-time. That means that's all I'm doing. My wife is staying home with the baby. So it's a single income family. And so we went down the social services office, applied for food stamps, which was probably, I want to say, 300 yards from the church, just down the road. Sure. And so if you've never applied for food stamps, you have to fill out a book on yourself. And then they take all your forms, and then you sit there in the waiting area for your number to be called. So our number got called, number 37. So Brenda and I get up and we take in through the front door into the back offices. And when we are in the office, we walked into the office of who was going to be our designated caseworker. And the caseworker, she was surprised to see us, and we were just mortified to see her. She was a member of our church.
Sure.
So here I am, the pastor of the church, his wife, sitting there applying for food stamps. We've got a baby in our lap.
Yeah.
And our member of our church is across the desk, figuring out if we qualify for food stamps.
Yeah.
She was embarrassed. We were just totally embarrassed. We didn't know what to do. So we're trying to explain ourselves. She's trying to make us feel better. And then the end of the story is she did her best to qualify us, but I was making too much money. I was making $22 too much. And in those days, Bishop Pitts, I was just stupid and naive. Didn't have anybody to counsel me, mentor me. I was a little proud and arrogant. If I had enough sense, I would have gone to the church board and said to them, "Hey, listen, cut my pay. Cut it by $22. At least I'll get free cheese, free bread, free milk, free diapers." So those were the days when Brenda and I would just have enough bread to make some peanut butter jelly or enough tortillas to fry and put some beans on it, and just eat half a sandwich for lunch, another half for dinner, and then get up there Sunday and preach, "God will supply all your needs according to his riches and glory by Christ Jesus," and believe it in our heart. But those are embarrassing times then. But today, even those are my stories, but you have your stories, and probably everybody watching us has their stories. But just to see how good God is doing in our life and how he is redemptive at all times.
Well, I have shared many meals with you, and I can attest to the fact that you're making up for the it's no more half sandwiches for Doc Chang today.
No, sir. Full. And bring me some more.
Well, that's an awesome thing. Hey, listen, we're going to take just a quick little break. I want to just say to you, if you're as you're listening to this, if you're going through a tough time, my takeaway from that was that you can stand up and declare that God will supply all of your need, even in a moment when it seems like you have more need than you have supply. But sometimes it just takes a little time. The word process is only used 4 or 5 times in the King James Bible. And every time that it's used in the same sentence. It's used like this: "And it came to pass in the process of time." God uses time to process some things. So you will win if you don't quit. That's the whole thing. If you don't quit, you will win. But I want to speak life and blessings to you. When we come back, I want to talk to Doc Chang about some things that he's seeing around the world, some things that he's seeing in churches, and maybe a few little leadership things like that. And then I'm going to tell you where you can get his books and download them and all those kind of things. But we're going to come right back right after this. Listen, you still have time to tweet or text or tell somebody, call somebody, send up a smoke signal or something, and tell them that this next part of this interview is coming on here in just a moment. We're going to take just a quick break. And you are watching Sundays on Mondays right here on cornerstoneglobal.tv. All good, all God, all the time. Be right back.
Come on, double it up. Here we go. God is fighting for us. God is on our side. He is overcome. Yes, he is overcome. We will not be shaken. We will not be moved. Jesus, you are here. Yeah. All right, let's sing that again. God is fighting. God is fighting for us. God is on our side. He is overcome. Yes, he is overcome. We will not be shaken. We We will not be moved. Jesus, you are here. Carrying our burdens, covering our shame. You have overcome, yes, He has overcome. We will not be shaken. Jesus, you are here. I will live, I will not die. The resurrection power of Christ alive in me, and I am free in Jesus' name. Carrying our burdens, covering our shame. He has overcome, yes, He has overcome. We will not be shaken, we will not be moved. Jesus, you are here. I will live, I will live, I will not die. The resurrection power of Christ alive in me. Jesus' name. Hey, I will live, I will not die. The resurrection lifts you high. Christ revealed, and I am healed in Jesus' name. Yeah.
Hey everyone, we're right back here with Doc Sam Chan here on Sundays on Mondays. And man, the last part of your story was so impactful, and I know will be to so many people. I've seen you on some of the biggest platforms anywhere, you know, with leadership conferences, and we could just throw all of the names out there of all the places that you've been, biggest platforms. I've seen you talk to small groups and mentor, and to hear the story about how, you know, it wasn't always that easy, you know. And I believe being thankful is a key to being blessed.
Totally.
Just be thankful for what you do have rather than complaining about what you don't have, you know.
Yeah, you know, you'll never be happy if you can't appreciate where you are in life right now.
So I think there's another key that, for lack of a better term, maybe I'll call it giving back. That I believe that it becomes incumbent upon those who are blessed to then turn around and be a blessing. So I know that you're doing that, you know, and you don't always make a big deal out of everything that you're doing, but telling that story about your father pastoring there in India, and I happen to know, as some people would know maybe, that you have given back and have an incredible Bible school going on there now.
Yeah, my father died in 1991. About 10 years after that, we started thinking about how to celebrate his legacy and perpetuate what he had in mind of raising leaders and starting churches. So we built a beautiful place in my hometown. The name of the hometown is Lucknow, Lucknow. And it is a predominantly Muslim city. It's a large city. And we built a beautiful Bible college there, Word of Life Bible College, in which we bring about 50 to 60 students for about 6 months at a time. We do an immersion experience. That means they live there, go to school there, worship there, serve out of there. And we think we can do more in 6 months' time when they have them the whole time, all day long, all night long, than in 4 years or whatever. And it gets them out of their present culture long enough to get enculturated and deculturated and reculturated and send them back so they're not totally disconnected from where they're at. And so we've been doing this since 2008, and it has been amazing.
And this is to no charge to the student?
No. The student pays a nominal amount. We want some skin in the game.
Yeah, it's some investment.
There's some investment. It probably covers about 10 to 15% of the cost. But we wanted the student to have some dignity themselves.
Yes.
I'm bringing something to the table They
Yeah.
all know that they are not paying for the whole thing, but they
Sure.
also know that we are looking for them to have some skin in the game, because when they leave from there, they'll have to have a lot more skin in the game.
Yeah, sure.
So we start, that's all part of the process of
Yeah.
spiritual maturity.
I guess what I was wanting our viewers to know as well is that it wouldn't be possible unless people help to sponsor students,
Absolutely.
and it's a
There's
first
just no
class
way.
school, and it's a first class school, and so we'll tell everyone how they can kind of hook up with that, because I think it's an incredible thing to come and to tell your story and then to give back.
Exactly. And when I was growing up in India, I didn't have any of those assets. I just saw a movie that's out right now called Million Dollar Arm.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's filmed in my city of Lucknow. And so they mentioned that, they show it and stuff like that. And I saw it with my wife, and there are kids who are just playing on the streets. And I said to my wife, that's me right there, playing right there in the streets with a stick and something that resembles a ball.
Yeah.
Or we get anything that we could kick around.
Sure.
And I just kept saying to her, that kid is me, that kid is me, that kid is me. And to think about, they have never thought not only would I be able to help, but be able to do that with so many of my friends. Because, it's one thing to just do it all by ourselves.
Sure.
But something else when you have a bunch of people like you and your church who've been just huge in this whole enterprise, to just make sure that we just never forget where we've come from.
Yeah.
And just stay tuned into what God has brought us from to where He's going to help other people in the same process.
Hey, I want to ask you a couple questions here about challenges that are facing the church today. You see probably as many churches as anybody that I know, and what kind of challenges are we facing? Not just as pastors and leaders, but as faithful members, believers who go into the workforce, parents raising children who are going to colleges that are sometimes hostile towards their faith, but certainly secular in their approach. There's a lot of challenges, and those we bring all those challenges to a corporate body. What kind of challenges are you seeing out there today?
So let me answer it from both sides that you've asked. One from the church leadership side, and the other would be people who are volunteer and attend in the church. Is that okay to do from both sides?
Perfect.
Okay. So from the church leadership side, I think pastors have to fully embrace the fact they got competition.
Sure.
I know nobody wants to talk about it, but it is there. I know it makes good sense to talk about God has not called us to compete. He's called us to complete. I get that. But there are churches.
Be careful now. I preach that. Don't start stepping on my messages now.
Well, and I think from a church point of view, it is all good.
No, I understand what you're saying.
Except there are new churches that are showing up on a regular basis in town and around, and that simply means that you can't keep doing church on autopilot.
Yeah.
You've got to always say, how do we step up our game? What is it that we need to hone up on? What is it that we need to not only start doing, but stop doing?
Sure.
And then always creating vibrancy. You've done a great job at Cornerstone, as I've observed Cornerstone from a distance, as to how you have continuously kept the church what I call edgy. Edgy simply means it's not just doing the hot and the latest thing. It is, where are we going? I know we've had great history, but we're going somewhere.
Sure.
And who are we reaching? And how are we prepared to reach the people we need to reach right now? And what programs and what ways of reaching them are most effective? And who do we need now? Not needed then, but who do we need now to get us to where we need to go? And I think those are the questions that get messy, because they call for constant shifts, and constant shifts create ambiguity. And ambiguity simply says, I don't know all the answers, but we're going to find it as we get along.
Yeah.
We're just going to take the next step. And so that has become another challenge for the church on the leadership side of it. But on the attendee side of it, you have about 5 generations sitting in your church any given Sunday. And so how does the parent who's got maybe a teenager in the house, as well as maybe a 4-year-old in the house and maybe a 10-year-old in the house, how are their needs being met in the church? So it could be the church is doing really good with the teenager, but the children's program
Right.
is lacking. And so it is not uncommon for people to go to two churches on a week. They take their children to a youth program on a Wednesday to that church, but then they take the rest of the family to Sunday church. And it is not uncommon to see that happen because parents are struggling with where can I get my children to get the best nurture. And then the family life is more complicated now as well. That simply means that at one time, I remember we actually had a weekend. When you quit work on Friday, you had Saturday and Sunday.
Sure.
But everybody that I'm talking to right now and you're talking to does not have that anymore. In fact, Saturday and Sunday seem to be a blur. They're just, bam, they're gone.
Yeah.
And in a pastor's life, in a volunteer leader's life, anybody who's getting involved in the life of church, it just, bam, it just goes away. So having to make quality of life decisions as to what is happening. The third thing that I think is a challenge on both sides of the pulpit, or both sides of the microphone, is the whole issue of applicability. How do I apply the Word of God into my daily living? So I think the greatest indictment against the church is that we are answering questions nobody's asking.
Sure. I had a pastor friend of mine, a senior gentleman, years ago tell me something that I thought was interesting for pastors. He said everybody should have somebody in their church that has the so what ministry. And he said you should picture someone in the middle of your congregation that at the end of your message, what would happen if that person stood up and shouted, "So what?"
Exactly. And you know something? They may not be standing up and shouting,
but they're still saying,
but they are there shouting. And so the challenge is because of the cluttered lives that we live in, and life is more complicated today than when I was growing up.
Yeah, for sure.
Life is much more looped now. It used to be linear.
Yeah.
You just do these things, but life is a whole lot more looped now. And so how do we meet the challenge is how do we meet people where they're really living at?
Yeah.
Without, and here's the biggest challenge, without making the message shallow.
Sure.
So it just does not become easy believism or 3 things to handle this and 5 ways to do that. And I'm not against that, but a steady diet of that will just give shallow stuff. So how do I still give them the meat of the doctrine of the word? How do I still teach eschatology? And how do I still teach the parables? And how do I still teach miracles and faith and give them the meat of the word without it just becoming, here's an easy way for you to fix your marriage.
Well, you know what? What I want to do is invite you at another time when we can kind of get your schedule, because I know you're a little bit of everywhere, and maybe we'll do something especially geared towards pastors and churches, and we'll sit and have a conversation like this and just make it available for pastors and different ones to watch us, and I'll make a way for them. Somebody come write on one of these how people can email questions into us, and then that way if they'll email questions in, then the next time that we're together, we can start hitting some of those questions and maybe try to
I'd love to do that.
Yeah.
I'd love to do that.
So go ahead.
Here's where I am in life. If you asked me to sit down, gave me a choice, said, Sam, you can talk to 10 pastors in this room, or you can preach to 10,000 people in the other room.
Yeah.
My mind is made up already, right now.
Yeah.
I'm going to be with the 10 pastors in the room.
Yeah.
Because that is where my heart is. So anytime I can do anything to serve pastors who are my heroes, the hardest job in the world.
Yeah.
Anything I can do, I'd love to do that.
Okay. Well, if you're a pastor or leader or a church member and you're a volunteer and you're over a department, or you want to be a help and you have a question, you can send it in at live@cornerstonetoledo.com. live@cornerstonetoledo.com. And we'll make sure that next time Doc Chan is on, we'll get a chance to ask him that. And you can see the information on your screen, of course, right now as well. That way you know how to get it to us. I wanted to ask you this question. We're just hanging out here. It's Monday, so we're just hanging out. But so when we talk about churches that are different in their liturgy, different in their theology, eschatology, methodology, philosophy, all of that. Yet there are churches that have the same theology. Some are growing or going forward. Doesn't have to do just with numbers. Going forward and succeeding. Another church, same theology, declining. Different and same liturgies, going up and down. Eschatologies, all of that. What is the thing then that makes a church happen, that makes it succeed, however we might define that, but makes it forward, makes it up, makes it going? What is the thing then? What is it?
So let me give you a real deep word to think about. I just call it the fizz. Fizz.
Yeah.
Or if you're in another country, ZZ. You can have the same Coke,
Yeah.
but you leave the lid off it, the fizz goes away.
Sure.
And nobody likes to drink flat Coke. So the theology can be the same, methodology can be the same. It's still the same Coke, but the fizz factor,
Yeah.
if you want to call it the buzz factor,
Yeah.
is what pops a church.
Don't use the word Coke and buzz in the same sentence.
I'll let you edit that out.
You know, in the other part of the world, they call that gas, right?
That's right.
They want water with gas in it. Fizz.
That's exactly right.
The effervescence.
That's right.
Thing. Yeah.
So you can walk into a church. Now, here's the thing. You know the fizz of the church as soon as you pull into the church parking lot or you walk in there. You can feel the buzz.
Yeah.
You can feel that something is about to happen here. The atmosphere. You do a great teaching on atmosphere. I wish you would do that and interview yourself. Creating that atmosphere in which everything pops.
Yeah.
And I don't think the churches are intentional about creating the ambiance, the atmosphere. Now, we relegate that to praise and worship.
Yeah.
But by the time people get up to praise and worship, the atmosphere had to be created way out there and is brought in there. So the people in the vestibule, the lobby, the welcome area, the volunteers in the parking area, if you've got that, the greeters, the ushers, the seating, the people they're seated next to, the lighting, all that happens before that sets the atmosphere. You can walk into a restaurant. A high-level restaurant will spend so much time creating the atmosphere, a high-level hotel.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. I mean, you pay extra money for the first 5 minutes when you walk in there because of the ambiance. And most churches have great Coke, but the fizz is not intentional. That is where everything, and it's not just before the service, it is during the service. And after the service,
and Monday and Tuesday and Wednesday and Thursday and Friday.
Exactly.
Yeah, sure.
Churches don't grow on Sunday. Churches grow Monday through Friday.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so the intentionality that comes in creating that atmosphere, the climate in which anything can happen, in which a difficult word is easily assimilated, in which difficult decisions are easily made. Yeah. It is just the atmosphere, and I think that creates a big difference. So I can go to a church in which the praise and worship, they're singing the same songs. Sure. They got the same guitars, the same keyboard. Yeah. They're all wearing skinny jeans. They're all jumping at the same time. Yeah. They all got the right amount of hair. They got everything going on. Same thing. But one place there's an atmosphere that is real, and the other place it's not. So I say that becomes the it quality.
Yeah. If you are a pastor or leader or on a worship team with skinny jeans, or you're a children's teacher or wherever you might be, as you can see, if you get Doc Chang in his lane, which is leadership, development, how to get from here to there, you find out it's just a well of it. So next time he's going to be on, if you just want to send your question to live@cornerstonetoledo.com, we're going to get him back, and we're just going to do a whole day. We're going to let everybody join in on it, I think, but it'll be for especially geared towards leadership things and that. Last question. I got to let you go because it's Monday, And it's time for us to get some things done and let people get on with their things that they're doing. You were with us at Father's Day and had a message for men. And let me just ask you this question. How important is the role of men in the church?
I think the role of men can never be underestimated. In fact, one of the things that we're dealing with, America especially, is the whole maleness issue, the men issue, the whole issue of the leadership that comes from male. And I'm not being, I'm not hating on anybody except to say there's a special responsibility that was given to men.
But I think that just that right there shows us where we're at, because I feel myself do the same thing. That we have a church here where biological gender is a non-issue. We have women in all leadership roles. We're not stuck up on all that. We have female pastors and all of that. But I find myself that when I want to encourage the men, I almost feel like I have to make the disclaimer. It seems like this is part of our problem.
It is part of a problem, and that is the culture that we are living in. But there are responsibilities that were given to the male gender that, if not utilized, if not maximized, will create a deficit.
Sure.
And those deficits our society is showing, the deficits that are all around us. And so the whole idea of the importance of men cannot be underestimated. The challenge in our society is that because there has been a deficit, that vacuum has to be filled in some way.
Yeah.
And that whenever leadership rises in a vacuum, it usually ends up being dysfunctional.
Yeah.
And so the dysfunctions of the society are because of the deficiencies that are created by men not taking the rightful position that God has given to them.
Yeah. Man, I could talk to you forever, and I have had so many great times with you in the country, out of the country, Zimbabwe, Mexico, Ruth Chris Steakhouse, Taco Bell. I mean, we just kind of hit it all. And I want to thank you for being a friend. Thank you for your words of counsel. Thank you for kind of just being a voice of reason and talking me on Mondays, talking sense,
And I want to say to you that it is no secret in my household that everyone knows how much I love you, because my daughters, my wife say that you really like Michael Pitts, don't you? You really like Michael Pitts. You are more than a friend. You are a brother in my life. You're a confidant in my life. And some days you are dumping ground in my life. On my Mondays, you have been there to help me just let it out of my system.
Yeah.
And you have just been a godsend in my life. And I am just eternally grateful for God connecting us, and thank God for not just what has happened, but our journey into the rest of our lives together.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much. And listen, everyone, I know that if you've been listening to Doc Chang, you're thinking like, okay, I have got to figure out how to get a hold of his material. Some of you, it might be the very first time you've ever met or got a chance to listen to Doc Chang, and certainly maybe just to hear him talk rather than to see him just on a platform or to see him giving a presentation somewhere. But all of his information is coming up on the screen, and you can go to Sam Chand with a D, samchand.com, right? Samchand.com?
Yeah, that's easy. That's it.
Easy. samchand.com. You see it up there on the screen. But I want to tell you, he has 11 books. I think most of them are ebooks that they can get a hold of, downloadable.
All of them.
All of them. And I mean, The Womb of Success, Leading Your Church into Tomorrow. You may be a leader of a business. Who's Holding Your Ladder? 15 challenges all leaders face. I'm telling you, it goes on. And he's the head of Dream Releasers, life coaching. There's so much. It's just a well of resources that you can get a hold of. And we'll also have some information here, and you can find out about the school there. in India, if God so puts it in your heart to help sponsor a student or to help do something, it's a first-class operation. We're not here to sell you on a bunch of things. We're just trying to here to make you available on a lot of things, because this is Sundays on Mondays, and it's all good, all God, all the time, from right here where we are to wherever you are. And I want to thank Doc Chang for joining with us. Thank you for watching. Until next time, we'll see you. Bye.